Moving into the receiver group, this group has been my favorite group to watch for training camp position battles for the last 2-3 years, and it always seems like we're losing a couple guys, and this area where we were like going seven deep all of a sudden becomes, well, who do we have? And then they restock the cupboards, and it's never really in a way I expect them to do it, but it's kind of like I go from 2 weeks ago looking at our wide receiver depth's looking a little thin to, a few weeks go by and all of a sudden I feel like we're stocked up again. So we have our obvious top three here. Diggs, Gabe Davis looking to take on a bigger role. Jamison Crowder added in free agency. And we got touchdown Jesus, Jake Kumaro, our 5th-round draft pick, Khalil Shakir, Isaiah McKenzie, Lil Dirty himself, Tanner Gentry, Isaiah Hodgins, and Marquez Stevenson. And then, again, there's a few undrafted rookies. I think with the players in front of them, I think we're going to have some crazy competition with kind of just those top slots to start with. I don't see any undrafted rookies making the team at wide receiver. So where I think the competition is really interesting here is I just listed off 9 guys, and we've typically seen under Bean and McDermott, the team keeps 6 wide receivers. So the top 3 pretty locked in. Diggs just getting an extension, Gabe Davis having a very productive season, really coming out in the playoffs, and then adding Jamison Crowder as a free agent. Where I think it gets really interesting is kind of that 4th, 5th receiver and the return duties. And we saw McKenzie and Stevenson both get their share of punt and kick returns last year, with very mixed results, and kind of leading to McDermott losing a little bit of faith in them. Some poor decisions made, some ball security issues, and it kind of got to be, great, you might take this one back 50 yards, but I want the ball going back in Josh Allen's hands and letting the offense do their thing. So at the end of the season, we don't even see either of them returning punts anymore. We have our all-pro safety back there, Micah Hyde, just because he was kind of trusted in making the right decision and securing the ball. So between McKenzie, Stevenson, and then having drafted Khalil Shakir, I see Shakir taking over kind of long-term in that slot receiver role. With the addition of Jamison Crowder this year, I think it gives you the ability to kind of bring Shakir along slowly, and if he's really knocking people's socks off, you can kind of increase his duties. But what I really like about that draft pick is he does have punt return and kick return experience in college. So I think he becomes immediate competition for those return duties. And then we're kind of looking at a numbers game. We have the top 3. We have Jake Kumaro, who is kind of stuck around as that veteran leader, special teams ace, really contributes in that way, and has had some production when he's actually playing as a receiver. But similar to Tywan Jones, we know that his value on the team is with special teams. So I don't see him going anywhere. And then, so you're looking at four players there. Between Shakir Stevenson and Isaiah McKenzie, I'm pretty confident that Shakir gets a roster spot with the draft investment that they made in him. Granted, it was only a 5th-round pick. Maybe he could be a practice squad stash, but he's a guy that when I was in my mock draft season, I was pretty consistently taking in the 3rd round for the Bills. It was kind of address cornerback, address offensive line, and then the best of whatever receivers were left were going in round 3. And I would have been very happy to take Shakir in the 3rd round. We end up getting him in the 5th round, but I'm confident that he ends up with a roster spot. So if he's taking over the return duties, I think additional players like McKenzie and Stevenson kind of become a little bit redundant unless they can contribute more offensively. And yes, we saw McKenzie just get extended again. Again, it was a very small contract, and I feel like it's the same conversation that we were having last year. As I think McKenzie probably makes the roster. I think he's great for the locker room. I think he's kind of like encapsulates Bill's Mafia. He's out there having fun. He loves playing. He's got a little edge to him for a little guy out there. So I think he probably sticks around, and Stevenson's the one, looking for a way to crack the roster. Tanner Gentry, I think he's kind of a perennial camp body. I think they like having him around. He was a college teammate with Josh Allen. Kind of one of those camp darlings that never makes the roster. But not a bad player to have in the fold. And then Mr. Camp Darling himself, Isaiah Hodgins. Again, a player that's dealt with some injuries, and I keep going back to the fact that he was taken in the same draft as Gabriel Davis, and a lot of these really smart draft guys that I go to for some of my information had Isaiah Hodgins coming out of college as a better receiver than Gabe Davis. And it kind of seems like a long shot to me now, but if he was anywhere near Gabriel Davis and we actually got to see him stay healthy and make it through a training camp and crack the roster, the potential of what's there. And this time of the year, he kind of, in shorts and a t-shirt, really makes some plays and starts making some noise. And then as the summer goes on, we hear less and less about Hodgins. I think this is kind of the make or break year for him, where we either see him take that next step or we don't see him around after this offseason. So definitely pulling for the guy. To my untrained eye, I think it might be kind of the end of the road for Isaiah Hodgins, but who knows what happens? Maybe he can stay healthy and make some noise and make this, wide receiver 5-6 conversation even more interesting than it already is. But that's my favorite position group that I'm going to be keeping an eye on as we get into training camp, as we get closer to the season. I think it's kind of legitimately 4 or 5 guys competing for 1, maybe 2 spots, and it's kind of a position I didn't expect to be in going into this with Cole Beasley leaving town, losing Emmanuel Sanders. Sorry, his name was escaping my mind for some reason right there. Losing 2 of our top receiving options from last year, I kind of didn't expect to get in a position where so quickly we were reloaded, and I was looking at this as like a holy crap, who's going to make the roster again conversation. And we were kind of in the same position, when John Brown left town, and obviously we replaced him really quickly. And what I think is most exciting about this group is not only the talent that we have at the position, but the quarterback that we have in Josh Allen, and that all of these guys on the top end of our receiver group, and even going into some of the depth, have shown at least some level of production in the NFL. And with a quarterback like Josh Allen, with a top receiver like Diggs taking attention away from other people, it's really going to help them elevate their game. And I was concerned for a little bit about the depth that we had at this position, but like I said, it was right to restock in the cabinets and right back to a position of strength on this team.